We're going to be working on our Counterform demo here. And I'd like for us first to go to Canvas, open Canvas. Then I'd like for us to open our course, Typography 1. And then I'd like for us to scroll down and go to Counterform Demo. Under Counterform Demo, you'll find this PDF. I'd like for us to right-click and save the link as to our desktop. Once it's saved to the desktop, we can minimize this window. Now I want to open Illustrator. If Illustrator isn't in your toolbar, you'll have to go to the Applications area and open Illustrator from there. If not, if it's in your toolbar or on your desktop, we can open it. What I'd like for us to do is use Command, Option, Control, Shift if you're on a Mac. And if you're on a PC, I'd like for you to hit Control, Alt, Shift to reset the preferences. Once it's open, I'd like for us to open our PDF file. We'll go to Open, under File, and we'll open our PDF. Once we have our PDF open, I'd like for us to zoom in. You can hit Command plus to zoom in, and we can use our space bar to kind of shuffle our navigation. I want us to inspect this. What I'm doing here is I've taken Futura and I've used these angular forms to line up to different other angular forms. And this is what we're going to be doing with our Letterform Counterform interaction. I've also used Pathfinder to overlap and create this white space. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be making a new document and we're going to be duplicating this version of the Letterform interaction. So the first thing I'd like for us to do is to go to our artboards up here, and I'd like for us to add a new artboard. Now you notice the artboards are very close over here. If you are using artboards, you can notice that this numeric form is hanging over the edge of the document. We want to make sure that in our layers first, that layer is locked. It is locked because I set it that way. But otherwise, you might grab that text off of the document when we adjust our artboards. So I'd like for us to move our artboard over. And we can zoom out by hitting Command minus. And I'm going to move my artboard just over a little bit so I can duplicate this Letterform interaction. It says, any hidden or locked objects in the artboards will not be moved. And that's what I want to happen. I don't want them to be moved. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our type tool. And before we insert a letter form, I want to make sure that we go to Preferences. And if you're on a PC, your preferences are found under Edit. And since we are on a Mac, it's going to be found under Illustrator. And we're going to go to Type. We're going to unclick this box that says Fill New Type Objects with Placeholder Text. That way we don't get lorem ipsum filler type. So I click into open space with my type tool and I hit the letter capital A. Then separately I'm going to deselect, and we should remember how to deselect by hitting Command Shift A. If that's too hard to remember, we can also just go deselect here. And then I can hit V. And I'm just going to use my Command Shift A to deselect again, and I'm going to hit my 4. Since we are using Futura, I'm going to grab my arrow tool, I'm going to select all of this, and I'm going to change the type using my character tool up at the top. I'm going to type Futura in at the top, and it shows me all the different versions of Futura. Now, if you don't have Futura on your computer, you can install it like I showed you how to do in the monogram exercise, or you can go to Find More up here, and you can go instantly to Adobe Fonts and find Futura there. Futura. Notice there's Futura here, and I have these two fonts activated. Once we've activated the font, we can go back to our Illustrator document, and we can select that type and again hit in Futura. and I'm going to just hit Futura Medium. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make these about 72 points, just so I can kind of see more of what I'm working on. And then I'm going to zoom in with my Command plus, and I'm going to try to replicate that document that we see on the left side. And so what I'm going to do with my letterform interaction, and this is how we would kind of experiment with all of our different letterforms, is we're going to mess with them and try to see how they align with one another. I notice that my snap is on here when I move my letterforms around. What you can do is you can go to your view here and you can turn off your smart guides and you can turn off your snap. And that way we can be a little bit more free with our placement of these letterforms. What I'm going to do with the 4 is I'm going to tilt it so that it lines up with the angle of the letterform. And I believe this is very close to what we have next door. I want to enlarge this. Now, one way we could enlarge this is just by selecting with our arrow key a marquee around all of the type, and then we can drag out holding our shift key. Holding our shift key will constrain the proportions. That way, our type will stay in the same position. Now, I notice that the angle of the A is lined up with the side of the document. I can select all of the type by dragging a marquee out, and I can tilt the type so that it will align with the edge of that artboard. I notice my typeface is maybe a little bit bigger over here, and we don't need to use accurate measurements for this particular project, meaning we don't need to use a particular point size. But what I'd like for us to look at is how these letterforms interact and how they interact with the actual exterior of the document size, which is 6 by 6. And so this looks very close to my original. And there we go. So once we're here, and I can move this down a little bit. There we go. That looks pretty good. What I'd like for us to do here from this point is inspect this overlapping A and 4. We're going to try to recreate this using our Pathfinder tool. What we're going to do is we're going to select our 4, holding Shift key with our black arrow tool. If you don't have your black arrow tool, all you have to do is hit V, and you'll get on your keyboard, and it will get you your black arrow tool. We're going to hold our Shift key and grab our A and our 4. What we're going to do is use our Pathfinder tool, which is found over here, and we are going to use something called Exclude. Now, if you're on a Mac, it's Option key, and if you're on a PC, it's the Alt key. And so what we're going to do is we're going to hold it down, and we're going to click on it, and it will allow us to exclude that area. Is everybody seeing that there? We're going to do one more of these, and I'm going to make a new artboard. And I'm going to move my artboard over a little bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to make another one. Now this one was done with a sans serif. Each student has to do 8 different sketches, meaning they'll make 8 different versions of these interactions, and then they'll choose their top 4. I'm going to use Baskerville, and I'm going to choose Q and Command-Shift-A, question mark, because I know it will look curvy and interesting. And I am going to choose an S. Lots of things to look at here. And so I'm going to select all my type. I'm going to choose Baskerville under my character. This one's the Roman typeface, but the Q is italic. These are at 72 points. So I'm going to make some form of letterform interaction here. I'm going to zoom in so I can see what I'm working on. Except this time I'm going to make it white on a black document. So I'm going to select all my type. I'm going to change my color over here by double-clicking and choosing white on the screen. Now you can also use your color tab. We can grab our white right there as well. Once I have all my text white, then we can grab our rectangle tool and we can drag a marquee down outside of our document and make it a black document. Now I'm going to choose black over here, and I'm going to right click and I'm going to arrange it to the back. If somebody's like, well, I don't like using my right click, or I don't like using command functions, you can always go to Object. You can arrange it to the back. You can also use command bracket to move objects to the background. All right, so one thing I'd like to do is go to our layers, and I want to lock that black rectangle so that I don't grab it when I'm working on my document. So I'm going to grab my black arrow tool. Again, you can hit V, and then I'm going to drag these out, holding my Shift key. And like I said in the instructions, you can overlap the edge of the document. Placement is crucial to how we observe counterform. So once I have this in place, this is what I consider fairly finished. If you don't like the plainness of the overlapping form, so we focus on the counterform, the S, the Q, and the question mark. If you want to use the Pathfinder tool, you'll want to add another artboard. What I'll do is I'll duplicate that artboard. And what we have to do is we have to go to Layers, and we have to take off the lock on the black rectangle tool. And then we go to our artboards. To duplicate the artboard, we just drag it down to our plus tool down at the bottom here, and we should get a second artboard. And I'd like for us to move it over a little bit just so that we can see what we're working on. So use your artboard tool here. And once our artboard's over there, I go back to my layer tool, and I like to lock my rectangles just so that I don't accidentally grab them. And then I'll grab with my black arrow tool. Remember, you can hit your V key to grab your black arrow tool. And then what we do is we go again to Pathfinder. And if you're having trouble finding Pathfinder, you can always go to Window and scroll down to Pathfinder. Since our Pathfinder's open, we're just going to go to our Exclude tool. We're going to hit Option if we're on a Mac, Alt if we're on a PC, and we're going to exclude it. So this is what our document looks like. I know some students might still have a hard time starting a new document. Again, we're going to have 8 of these experiments, and you're going to choose your top 4. So what I'd like for us to do is create a new document so you understand what we're doing. And what I do is I go File, New. I'm going to make a new document here. I'm going to go to Print. I'm going to go to Inches. And remember, our document's going to be 6 by 6 inches. And since we have 8 experiments to do, I'm going to make 8 artboards. And it's really easy to start working on your artboards this way. Now, I think that these artboards are too close, so my recommendation is for you to kind of use your tools to kind of like spread them out a little bit so that you have a little bit more room for your letter forms to kind of like move off of your canvas or your artboard a little bit. And so what we're going to do is we're going to shift them around, and then you have all of your artboards. And that way, if you want to start working, you can go and on your layers, and we can start adding, let's say you want to have some that are black, you know, we can drag our marquee out and just start dragging out our black. Maybe you'll have a few that are black, so you have some options here. And then after that, you might want to lock them. Remember, to lock layers, all you have to do is hit Command 2. So if I drag a marquee around all of these, I can hit Command 2, and that will lock all the layers. So if I go to my layers here, you'll see all these layers locked. So that's a good place to start, and then you can start working your letter forms on top of these documents. Remember that each student has to have an old style, a transitional, an Egyptian typeface, and a sans serif. You can use italics, and remember that you're only using one number, one uppercase, and one lowercase. Very easy. Good luck.